bro, symmetry breaker, bro, is that they were doing arm wrestle. So they did arm wrestling. The guy won. You brought up the analogy. Wait. You brought up that analogy as correlation to like the whole Kanye thing. So I'm saying if their first necessity was like going based off charisma, and they could not come to a conclusion upon that, but then they resorted to a different metric, which is going to be combatability, and Akainu beat out Kiji, and now he is Fleet Admiral, and then therefore he will be stronger than them in terms of accountability because they use that metric as a solution. It does have to be correlated to the charisma at all. Huh?
Okay.
Yeah, so he's going to be above them in terms of accountability.
I've never said that we don't know Akainu isn't stronger than Aokiji. That's not.
What do you mean? Wait, what do you mean?
My argument was never that Akainu isn't stronger than Akainu. So my argument was never that Akainu is we don't know if he's not stronger than Aokiji. That's not my argument.
Wait, I never said that. No. I'm saying if you were saying that you think Akainu is stronger than Aokiji, I agree with that. But I'm saying when it comes to, for example, I don't know if you think that it's unprovable to say that he's above Kizaru and the other admirals, but I think it's directly implied. And I think I can take advantage of your analogy, which I agree with. Sure, it could be solved within the second metric or the second necessity, which completely justifies my position unless you're not flip-flopping.
It only defaults to the second metric if the first metric is an impasse, is what my point is. The second metric doesn't have any power absent that, and it's not the primary method of proving it. You can prove who's the strongest without ever referring to the second metric.
You said what?
I said the person can get promoted without ever needing the second metric. So Aokiji could have been stronger, or Akainu could have been stronger. If the Gorosei and Sengoku both played with Aokiji, irrespective of who's stronger, Aokiji would have still been promoted.
Wait. Repeat that one more time.
I said Aokiji could be weaker than Akainu, but he still would have been promoted to Fleet Admiral if the Sengoku and the Gorosei preferred him over Akainu, right?
Yeah, that's if. Yeah, sure.
Okay. So then saying that the Admiral is stronger means nothing because the weaker person could have been promoted if he was just favored as a better leader.
Wait, no, but then you're just going to hypothetical. Because the whole point is that you were attacking my thing by bringing up this example where it's not like it's not even like, well, at least I think what I was trying to do is like correlate both charisma and accountability. But then you bring up the example and say, okay, that still helps my thing. Because if you're saying that even though they appeal to this second metric, which is not like some sort of thing that weighs the same as the first, which I totally agree with because they're totally distinctive, that's fine. But I'm saying when they are appealing to the second metric, that's going to be their solution for the Admiral, not the Admiral, but the Fleet Admiral title. So now they're basically wait. So now they're basically changing it indirectly and making it pretty much about combat prowess specifically, and there's no really charisma correlation because that is out the window.
Yeah, I agree. It's derived from combat
unless there's confusion.
That's because the leadership one was equal. So because it was equal, then they chose that as a secondary metric. But absent that, if they both agreed on the first metric, the second metric would have been irrelevant.
What? Wait. I understand that. Like, if they was to say that, if every single person in the room was like, well, I think Aokiji or I think Akainu was a better fit for it, then sure, it would have been. Then it would have been.
What?
Wait. Just to be clear,
I didn't hear you.
Wait, I'll repeat. Just to be clear, if every single person in the room said, I think Akainu is the best fit for this, then it would be based upon charisma because we both agreed that. Well, at least you said that. Well, they didn't know who was stronger. So if they all agreed, it would be based upon charisma. Then it would mean that whoever they picked had the best charisma. There was like no sort of like solution on who was the best in terms of combat. But since there was like some sort of like 50-50 thing in terms of charisma, and the metric they used was going to be based upon the actual combat ability, and that is going to be the new metric that is now utilized because the old metric cannot be used because it's 50-50. So I'm saying, even if we was to go with what you said as a counter argument, that would still indirectly hit my position because I'm arguing that Akainu, by virtue of this thing, would still be stronger than the rest of the admirals, even if it's by the second metric.
That has nothing to do with Kizaru, though. Why does it show he's stronger than Kizaru?
Huh?
Why does it show he's stronger than Kizaru?
Repeat that.
Why does that show he's stronger than Kizaru, or even the next generation of admirals? So
wait. I don't want to talk about the next gen. I think that's kind of weird. But the whole point is I'm basing it off the current things within the story itself. So you're saying, why do I think he's stronger than Kizaru?
No. I'm saying, why does him being promoted to Fleet Admiral necessarily have him above Kizaru?
Okay, so if the conversation is about the statement in which you said, I only think it goes up to the admiral statement, but it's then shown to go up to the fleet admiral in terms of compatibility. And what's your contention? I'm confused.
No. Okay, so in reference to the scan, I was saying how they only really it's who they think is the better leader, and then if they
Yes.
both agree on who's the better leader, and the two people who are competing for the fleet admiral position are both and then it's decided by his strength. But because Zara wasn't competing for the position, why is he like being scaled below
How do we?
the winner of the?
Wait? How do we? I don't like. Actually, bro. I don't know if he didn't compete. So I don't know if we should go with that. Like
He might
I
not
don't.
competed, but Sengoku or the Gorosei didn't vote for him as the leader of the fleet admirals.
Yeah. And do you think during the time that was based upon in charisma?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this still helps my point because if the metric changes now, like let's say you have like, oh fuck, let's say you have like fucking 5 candidates, right? And let's say you're judging it based upon their fucking dig game or some shit like that. And then you have two people you want. I'm sorry, but then you have two people you want severely, and then due to like a 50-50 thing being like implemented within the two people, you now have to change it to a different metric. Do you not think a Kizu would not be in the game? Do you not think he would still be in the conversation because the metric changed?
Because let's say the leadership for like Aokiji is like a 10, and the leadership for Akainu is also a 10, and leadership for Kizaru is a 9. Well, he's not gonna fight for if there's a tiebreaker between the two best people, sure the tiebreaker is gonna be an indication who between those two is. But if he isn't considered for P1, I don't see why he's gonna have to be part of the factor for P2. It
No,
would be
but then
like
that's
there's
go
three
go.
let's say there's three people in the race, and two of them are joint first. So they arm wrestle for point two. Well, the person who came second place isn't going to arm wrestle because he didn't even make the first selection criteria.
Yeah, but then that would be pretty much presupposing these things have like a close correlation. Because if you're saying, well, if he wasn't qualified for the first requirement, why should he be required for the second requirement? Well, it's because both of these things are fundamentally distinct, right? When it comes to charisma and when it comes to compatibility. Charisma is pretty much how charming you are, right? Someone like a Kainu or Aokiji can be way more charming than someone like Kizaru who's a fucking retard. But in terms of compatibility, that's something that's totally distinct. So I don't know why, like, you think, well, if he isn't qualified for requirement 1, he shouldn't be required for requirement 2. I don't see an argument for that.
Because they only did the tiebreaker because there was an impasse on part two. If it was the case that leadership and fighting ability to be equally considered the way positing, they would have the assessment. They would have like who they think is the better leader, and they would also have the fighting. But it was only conditional upon them being equal. They used it as a tiebreaker. It didn't have equal selective power in and of itself.
The thing that was the thing that was equal when we was talking about this earlier is going to be the charisma. That was the first metric, the charisma. They couldn't come to a conclusion because it was 50-50. Now, what they used to settle it was going to be like these guys fighting, which is inherently compatibility. So I'm kind of confused on where you're going because they could like the main thing we were talking about. They couldn't do that. So now they're basing it differently. Now they're basing it off actual combat. So I just might not understand, but like I don't get what you're trying to say here.
Okay, let me just go back a bit. So let me just try to get some reground and see at what point we diverge. So let's say the Gorosei and Sengoku, right? We both agree who they think is the best leader gets promoted, right? So if they both thought Akainu or Aokiji was the strongest, either one of them would have been promoted, and they wouldn't have need to fought, right?
Repeat that. Repeat that. You said that a little too fast. Repeat that.
So the requisite for being the admiral initially was just who the better leader was. So
Yeah.
Aokiji, we both know the Gorosei thought Akainu, Sengoku thought Aokiji, right?
Yeah.
And if they agreed, one of them would have been promoted, right?
Who was more charismatic? Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay, so the requisite between determining who the fleet admiral was, assuming they both agree, was just leadership. There was no fighting prowess necessarily. They didn't need to prove who was the stronger. It was just
Yeah.
until they both agreed to make the best leader. Okay,
Yeah.
so then, assuming they both agreed on who the best leader was, it could easily be the case that Aokiji was fleet admiral, even though he was weaker than Akainu. He didn't have to be stronger than him to be fleet admiral.
Well, he didn't have to be stronger than the. Wait.
Yeah, because if they both agreed on who the best leader was, then
That's
that would be
going
the only
under.
metric.
Yeah, but that's going under the if condition. It seems you're kind of hedging a bit because initially when we was arguing, you were like, well, if you have this one situation, if you have two situations, if you have one with two necessities, these people couldn't complete necessity number 1. So now they're going to necessity number 2. And now you're saying, well, if it was the case that Aokiji was picked as a more fucking charismatic leader, then he would be that, and it wouldn't be based upon something else. Well, if you're going under that if condition, then the story would have changed, right? There would have been like some like narrative change, because then Aokiji will be running it, not Akainu. But we're not basing it off of if situation. We're not based off hypothetical. We're basing it off what happened. And I'm saying what happened because you gave your thing, talk about the whole thing. You gave your thing, and I'm saying, okay, that's fine because that still helps my case. And the case that happened is that they didn't go with P1. P1 wasn't like not P1, but like necessity number one. It didn't go through. It didn't go through at all. It was a tiebreaker. It was like a tie. So they went to necessity number two. They went to a different necessity, which is compatibility. And then I kind of beat him. In which I agree. If he had better charismatic, he would have been promoted. That's fine. But I don't see where you're going with that point here.
I'm so confused. Okay. So part 2 is by conditioning. So only it's not necessary in and of itself. It's only necessary insofar as P1 isn't reached. If P1 is reached, there's no need for part 2. Okay?
Yes.
So in much the same way with my analogy, if they win the 100-meter race, they never do the arm wrestle. The arm wrestle is only if they have a draw in the race. So do I extend the analogy or just go straight to the One Piece one? So if they both agree, if both leaders both agree on who the next leader is, and the weaker person can still be promoted, like, all right, we both agree with that, right?
Say that one more time.
If both the Gorosei and the Sengoku both agree on who the better leader is, then that person will be promoted, right?
Yes.
And they don't know who's stronger, right?
Yes.
Necessarily between Sengoku. Okay, so then Aokiji can be promoted while still being weaker than Sengoku. I mean, Akainu. It could just like if they both agreed on who the best. If they both preferred Aokiji's leadership style over Akainu, then irrespective of who's stronger, he still would have been promoted.
Yes.
Cool. And the conclusion logically follows that the admiral isn't necessarily stronger than the admirals, because just by virtue of having preferred leadership between the two people, then you'd be promoted irrespective of who's necessarily stronger.
Once again, you're still going off hypothetical. A hypothetical doesn't have any correspondence to reality, right? We're going off what actually happened. But if we're going off hypothetical, then sure, you would debunk me, you would win. But obviously, that's not something that corresponds to the actual verse. What actually happened is that Aokiji was not promoted, right? That then necessity number one was thrown out the window. They went to a different necessity, which is going to be compatibility. They fought Akainu one, etc. So that doesn't debunk my point, because they were saying, well, if Aokiji did this, then the whole thing about like the whole higher the rank, the higher the compatibility will be debunked. Sure, that's fine. But I don't think you're understanding that when you propose this theoretical sense, it doesn't really contradict my notion. And once again, the whole thing I was asking is that why do you think Kizaru would not be in the current conversation? Because obviously I agree. You have Aokiji and Kaini who are fucking charismatic as fuck. Aokiji was a fucking retard, but no one wants that kid, right? So obviously he will not be in the conversation. But when it comes to something fundamentally distinct, like for example compatibility, then he could be up there, right? But it's the case that they still thought Kaini was a better fit, even though the metric has changed. And you were saying, I guess you were trying to imply that you don't think Kizaru was.
I'm zoning out, bro. I'm sorry.
All right, I'll just. You want me to start from scratch? Right?
I think I heard the first part, but I was only the second half.
I'll just do it.
Is this nigga autistic?
I'll just do it so we have like a better.
Hey, late, bro.
Yeah, I'll just do it like a. Cause someone made the microphone. But yeah, I'll just do it so we have like a better conversation. So what I'm saying is that I agree in a sense where if you propose this hypothetical scenario in which Aokiji was like they all selected him, then sure, the whole thing about like the higher the combat, the greater the compatibility will be debunked because it will be based upon charisma. But I'm saying based upon what actually happened within the manga itself, Aokiji was not selected. It was 50-50, so they went to a different metric, in which a different metric was pretty much to show to be in Akainu's case. So now the metric is officially compatibility. It's not charisma. And I was saying, well, I think you're pretty much implying you don't think Kizaru would be in a conversation. I could totally understand as to why you think he would have been in a conversation.
Wait, there's two separate conversations. Whether what Kizaru's point is and whether there's a relationship between going after point 2 if P1 isn't reached. I think those are two separate conversations.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think I don't want to forget about him because I think he's important for this.
Yeah, sure. You can write it down as some shit, but I hate responding to two separate arguments simultaneously.
Nigga, you tell, bro, you can track two arguments, bro. Like, bro, sure, bro.
I can. I just don't want to respond to two separate things, especially if you speak like a minute on each of them.
All right, what's your response to the first?
So you're saying you would effectively concede that you would acknowledge I'm right if it wasn't like a minus hypothetical that doesn't actually exist in One Piece, right?
Bro, repeat that one more time, please.
The reason why you did. You said you would fully concede and accept my idea if it was the case that, like, only if not for the fact that it's a hypothetical that doesn't actually happen in One Piece. Therefore, it doesn't necessarily have any basis in reality. It's just conjectural. That was
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
rebuttal,
Sure.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
but I don't need to prove it would happen in reality. I just need to prove if the metric was met, then it would happen. And we know it, like, we know there is a causal relationship. So we know if it was the case they both agreed on the fleet admiral, then that person would be promoted. Like, we know that as a fact, right? The
Yeah.
only reason they fought was because of the impasse. So I think you really conceded. I think this debate is pretty much over. Like, we know if there was a synthesis reached on who the better leader was, then that person would be promoted irrespective of how strong the other person is. Like, we know that was the main factor.
Wait, that could be the main factor, but I'm saying due to it not reaching a conclusion, the main factor would now be altered. It would be a different factor now. So the main factor now would be
Sure,
compatibility. Yeah, so even if he was to
sure.
go what you're saying, it doesn't really prove what you're saying because I agree it could be the main factor. It could be the main thing that's highlighted for the admiral title. But if there's some sort of like if there's some sort of change within it, then now the main factor will be compatibility. So the whole narrative of that thing you're talking about will now be altered. So now we shouldn't go with
No,
that at
because
all.
I'd only
Conversation.
one. Okay, there's two reasons why that doesn't work.
Go ahead.
One, that's the only time they've ever fight for the fleet admiral position. So generally, that isn't what determines the fleet admiral position. It's usually the synthesis on who they agree is the
I
better
already
leader.
agree with
That
that.
this has been 10. Okay, so you agree with that. You just think it's only
But
in this case
no,
when
I
that's
agree with that. But I don't think that works for another reason as well. Even though if there's like people competing for this title, if there's like a usual or consistent way that they came to a conclusion, and that was like, I guess this was like the public just picking the person a lot, like the more I don't fucking know, like the public picking, like, I don't know, character A over character B, then sure. But I'm saying even with that consistent thing that happened, there's this first now altered change within the narrative. The narrative is now
what do you
different
mean?
because so yeah, what I mean by that is that this narrative of the free arrow thing is that you were saying, well, it's never been like that. It's consistently been that, well, they usually just pick a person and then they go with that type of factor. But now I'm saying, well, there will be a shift in the narrative. The shift in narrative will be, well, instead of it being like charismatic now, it will be predicated based on the actual compatibility now because it happened. So I'm saying with that thing being said and done, we can't just peel back to what you're saying because this thing has now been altered. It's like, for example, if there's like a fucking consistent thing that a fucking Yonko beats an Admiral, then we can say that, yeah, this is a factor that consistently happens. We can say it. But then if there's a shift in narrative, like every single opposite beats that character, then now it's like, well, this thing is now altered. So we can't appeal to the same thing that has been contradicted or changed. That's why I don't want to appeal to that at all.
Okay, I think we mostly left the previous conversation behind. I think the Kizaru thing is probably the most important thing now. So I agree that strength was the primary factor in determining who the fleet admiral was, insofar as the first condition wasn't met. And therefore, you can't necessarily say that a fleet admiral is necessarily stronger than an admiral. That's true in all instances other than the current timeline. We both agree on that, right? So let's say there's 10 fleet admirals in the past. We can't necessarily say that by virtue of they're necessarily stronger than the admirals of the time, right?
Wait, just for
We think
clarification.
it's only.
Wait, just for clarification, are you saying the admirals in the past? Like, do you mean like the OG niggas? Like, is that what you're saying? If you're saying,
Yeah, so let's say there's been 10. Let's say there's been 10 sets of fleet admirals and admirals, right? So you know how Kong was the fleet admiral and there was the admirals at the time that Sigurd and stuff.
yeah, sure.
Let's say for the 10 fleet admirals and admirals, you agree that we can't necessarily say that the fleet admiral is stronger than the admirals because we agree this is the time the metric has shifted from leadership consensus to strength, right?
I mean, in the past, sure, that's fine. What does that do for you? Getting confused here.
Sure. Well, I mean, I don't know what the original topic was, but my initial argument was that a fleet admiral isn't necessarily stronger than an admiral. And you're contextualizing and saying, yeah, that's true in 90% instances, but in this specific current timeline, it is.
Huh? Wait.
Okay, so
If you're saying, well, okay, I would agree is that within what you're arguing or within what you're trying to counter with, if there's been like a consistent thing within like the old generation that this thing is true and sure it will be true, but now I'm saying that when it comes to the current time, it would now be altered for the first time. So then
yeah,
it will
that's
be.
exactly what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah.
Okay, so then what's your basis behind why it being true now? Because insofar as I'm aware, there's two separate contentions I would have with this. One, the Kizaru's strength hasn't been factored into the equation, and two, I don't think our Akane is necessarily above the current admirals, so Green Bull and Fujitoro, etc., etc. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how
So
you go about proving that one of them.
Yeah, so you don't. Yeah, so you said that you don't think Kizaru's in the conversation. Is that what you said? For the first
Yeah,
thing.
Kizaru and the new gen. I guess we can treat
Well,
them as two
wait.
separate.
I don't. Okay, listen. I don't want to get into the new gen because I think the new gen have like potential to be stronger. So I don't really want to talk about them because
I
I
think
think they have a possibility of
I think
exceeding that. But I
mm,
think, yeah, but I
I
think
think
when it
they finish
comes
your
to
argument then.
no, but I think when it comes to old ass niggas like fucking Fuji, Green Bull, and Kizaru, I think that's perfectly fine. So like, what was your second thing?
Wait,
I was my first thing.
Fujitora isn't a gen. How does that make
No,
sense?
no. What I'm okay. I'll just give my definition. What I mean by new gen, I mean like niggas like Kobe, the upcoming niggas, etc. That's what I mean. Like those guys. Just for clarification,
So you think
I think.
Kobe might be stronger, but not Green Bull?
Wait, no, listen. What I'm saying is that when it comes to, for example, these new gen niggas, these new gen fucking Marines, like you have Kobe, you have that nigga who was with him, etc. I think these characters
Yeah.
have potential, right? So I don't really want, I really don't want to talk about them specifically because like currently they're fucking weak as fuck, right? But I still don't want to talk about them. I
Mm.
don't really care for the conversation. But
Oh,
I'm saying
that's
when it comes
fine.
to, yeah, but I'm saying when it comes to, like, for example, people like Fuji, Green Bull, the old ass niggas, I'm cool with
Mm.
talking about them. That's fine, right?
Yeah, I think I was never saying their potential couldn't be higher than Akai's. Yeah, I think that's an improved. Like I wasn't questioning that. I was saying
I know.
in terms of your argument is that we know as a matter of fact that Akainu is stronger than Green Bull, Fujitora, and like like why does the Fleet Admiral position necessarily scale them above them based
Uh,
on what we said
I
just
don't.
now?
I don't know
Like
if you
based
mean
on the single
currently
two.
or like. I don't know if you mean like skill above them currently or like of all time. I mean currently, sure, but I'm saying the
What do you mean
main
all
thing. I
time?
just don't want to. Yeah, I'm saying just for clarification, the main thing I don't want to devolve to is like just like talk about like is gonna prom fucking Kobe beat current Kanye. I don't care for that conversation. That's all
No,
I'm
I'm not talking
clarifying.
about Kobe. I don't care about people's potential in the future. They haven't actualized as worthless. I'm talking about people currently. So your
Oh yeah,
idea, your
currently,
argument is
yeah.
Akainu currently is stronger than Green
Oh yeah,
Bull,
yes.
Fujitora, and Kizaru. Like, why does him like based on what we've said about the
Yeah,
consensus and the strength being the second factor? Why does that scale him above those guys?
yeah. I'll explain. But I just want to make sure I track. What was your other contention? I'll explain. I'll respond to that later. What's your other contention?
I didn't mention. My contention was I'm just asking for proof how we know
Wait, no, no, no,
Akainu
no,
is
no,
currently
no,
stronger than
no,
Kizaru by
no, no,
virtue
no.
of our current
No, 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 no,
conversation.
no, no. You said you have two disagreements. You said the first disagreement was like he's already been in conversation, and you had another disagreement as well that you listed.
Yeah, the first one was Kizaru because he was the old gen at the time of the promotion, and the second one is the new gen who were admirals after the promotion. So Green Bull and Fujitora.
Oh, okay. Wait, so I got a question.
Mhm.
Wait, I'm not really a knowledge guy. Future, keep mic up.
Mhm.
So, I'll wait till you mic up. Oh yeah, knowledge guy on this shit. But
I kind of
when
know
I
about
kind when I kind of Aokiji fought and I kind of beat his ass and became fleet admiral was the admirals there then like was like Green Boy and them there that time or no?
no,
Confused.
no, 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 no. It was
No,
No,
just
they got
they
no.
had the
they
answer
they
for
got
It was a,
they got in there during
it
the
was
fucking
after the
draft
fact that
process.
they thought that
yeah,
they did a world
yeah,
description graph.
Oh,
yeah.
wait, hold up. Let me see something right quick. I didn't know we talked about the new admirals, but let me see. Oh, okay. Let me see where the book. Let me see where the book. Let me see where the
Are we
book.
judging this? Sure. You want a consensus VC judge, or you want one in the VC specifically?
Um, I don't know. I don't know if I'm arguing like the Green Bull. I think they're kind of weird because they just got here. I don't. I
Ego.
mean, sure, we can talk about it. That's fine. But yeah, I'll say for the Kizaru thing. Yeah, so if the main thing was that if Aokiji was selected as a fleet admiral as the upper role than Kizaru because of charisma, then he would have more charisma.
Wait,
So if
what?
it,
What did you say?
yeah, I'll say it one more time. I'll say it slowly. So if Aokiji theoretically, if we went what you said, if he was selected because of the because of his charisma,
Okay.
right, he would have more charisma than Kizaru. But now it's altered to
Mhm.
compatibility. So since Akane won that, he would biologically just have more charisma than Kizaru. So yeah,
Okay. What
yeah.
else do
And
you
I
believe?
think and I think given the fact, well, I got a question. Do you think like because they had like two people mind specifically for like the charisma shit, don't you? You don't, bro. What? Yeah, okay. Yeah, so your question, okay. This is weird. Okay, so like, yeah, I think what the first part is I'm going with that. Like the whole thing about that, I think the altered. But I think why Kizaru would be in the conversation because if they're now changing this, if they're now changing the factor to accountability, and you have an admiral that is like stronger than Akainu, then I guess they would favor Kizaru over him. I guess I don't know. Fuck.
I don't think so because they didn't care that much about the strength, and the strength was that they would have needed strength as a what do you call it, like a tiebreaker between Aokiji. Like if strength was that important, then in the decision to make one person fleet admiral, strength would have been like something that was heavily considered. But they didn't consider strength; they only considered leadership position. That was the only metric they were comfortable going off, even though they didn't know who was stronger than the other. So they didn't really care about it. They only used it only insofar as leadership failed.
Yeah, so out of the admirals, out of the 3 admirals, the people they selected for the charisma thing at first was Aokiji and Akainu, right? Those were the people they deemed to be more fit. Kizaru was not in the conversation. So if it now changes to combat ability, if they're now saying, well, a way we can settle this now is by combat ability, and they still have Akainu and Aokiji in the same picture instead of someone different, don't you think that's like a clear indicator? Because I don't know if you think they would just presuppose that like Aokiji and Akainu would still have this like better strength. I don't know if they would. But like if they wouldn't, I think the default assumption would be is that they would still look at Kizaru in the conversation because if you have someone that's stronger than these 2 guys, especially for a different reason, then he would be the new fleet admiral. Right?
No. I completely disagree. I think it's not at all implied. I think the other thing is far more likely.
What other thing?
So you're saying if the initial factor was due to their leadership ability and that fails, now therefore everyone's back in the running. So everyone should be given, if the now metric has changed strength, therefore all 3 of them should be given equal consideration, right?
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
But that's not true at all. It's so the second factor, which is the strength, is a biconditional. It's only contingent upon the leadership. So let's say 2 people, what they really care about is leadership. But because
I understand, Regulus. I understand that. But I'm saying even though I take that into consideration, I think it would still matter because even if it was a biconditional of the thing, it would still change now. Like if you say like, well, the charisma thing is gonna be the thing before, and then but and since like they couldn't come to like some sort of answer on that, there's now a new solution. And to solve the first thing in which they couldn't like come to like an answer on, they're now using strength, right? I understand that, but I'm saying it would still have to change because now the new thing in the new topic in conversation is going to be strength. They're going to be selecting off strength. That's going to be the way of them like breaking the tie, right? So I'm saying even with that, Kizaru would still have to be in the conversation, right? Because Kizaru doesn't. Yes, because when it came to charisma, Kizaru was not in the conversation at all. Then you have these 2 other candidates. When it comes to charisma, there's no answer, so that's not in the conversation. So charisma is just thrown out the fucking door, literally. So now the only thing that's in conversation now, because those things couldn't be like, there was no answer for that. The only thing that's now in the room people are talking about is going to be combat ability. So now, by virtue of that, Kizaru would have to get some sort of consideration, because now it's not like, well, this guy he failed to get charisma, but it's like the other 2 guys also failed. So it's like if they're moving on, I don't see why Kizaru would like be exempt from this now.
Yeah, because you already concede the idea that it's biconditional. So only by part 2 is only necessary insofar that part 1 is failed. But if he hasn't satisfied the condition for part 1, no reason. So your idea is that they throw out the idea.
Wait. That's fallacious. What the fuck?
Well, I haven't even finished my point.
Wait, I know, but the thing you just said was fallacious. But go.
Why are you trying to pre-cook my argument? All right, go on then. All right.
I haven't pre-cogging it, but go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so what they value first and foremost is leadership, right? We both agree on that.
Oh, my fault. I was looking at chat. What did you say?
Okay, so what they value first and foremost is the leadership direction, right? That's what they value more so than anything else, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, and Kizaru doesn't meet that threshold, which is their most important attribute they're focusing on for the fleet admiral. That's what they care about most, and Kizaru doesn't reach that. There's 2 people that are equally as important for the thing they care about most. So they use a secondary, more imperfect metric in order as a tiebreaker for the most important thing they care about. Well, because the first thing they care about is 2 people that hold it in the highest value, one person that holds it in a lesser value. Well, because they're defaulting to a secondary metric, that metric is still less important than the first. So even though they haven't reached synthesis for the first one, it doesn't mean they've thrown it out the window. They're only holding it in like a position, like an unchosen position, because they need it as tiebreaker for the first one. So they haven't thrown it out. They're just placing a causal relation, a contingent relation on the second one, only insofar as it maps onto the first one. So it doesn't make sense that they would throw Kizaru back in the running when it's the second metric is only insofar as it's serving the more important metric, which is the first one. So if Kizaru doesn't meet the first one, there's no reason he should be considered for the second one.
Wait,
the second one is only a tiebreaker.
Kind of said a lot. Ironically, kind of said a lot. Can you like kind of summarize?
Yeah, it's kind of. Yeah, but I mean, do you understand the core thesis of what I'm saying, or do you want me to like summarize it without yapping?
Just like summarize what you said. I wasn't really listening, bro. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Do y'all know how to like track?
Hyra, you fucking shut up, bitch. You know what's going on.
Shut up, bitch. Who the fuck are you talking to? The fuck?
Alright,
nerd ass, bum ass, hoe
Go
ass
back.
nigga.
Who's haram, shitty bitch? Anyways, go ahead.
Who the fuck said that, nigga? You are a fucking haram.
Guys, fucking ass. By the way, talking shitty ass bitch. Anyways, go Regulus.
What were we saying? Okay, so we really conceded to the idea that hey, the leadership is more fundamental than the fighting. That's what they actually care about, and that in and of itself can be the whole determining factor. Like we both agree to that. So the only reason we're defaulting to the impact, which is the one they don't really care about as much, which is fighting, is because there's an impasse between the first one. So they're not going to bring someone back because they already failed the first metric, when the first metric is more important than the first. So it doesn't make sense because they're already back in the running.
Yeah, but the problem with that is that not only did Kizaru fail the first metric, both other candidates technically failed the first metric. So if you're saying the first metric, wait, no. If you're saying that the first metric is that Kizaru not being qualified, so they say that Kizaru is out of the conversation. Then you have Akainu and Aokiji. They're saying these two people are now in the conversation as top two to get the Fleet Admiral title because obviously only one person can get it, right? So then if both of these guys are now trying to get the title, and they both can't do it because there's a 50-50, then technically both of these guys are still failing the first requirement. So they're saying, well, wait. They're saying since we have these two people, right, which we deem to be like the top two best to get it, we're going to go to a different factor now, which is completely different, right? So it's not like you said, it's like technically all three failed the first requirement. So it's like when they go to the second requirement for the factor thing now, they still don't have Kizaru in the conversation. So I think if all these people technically failed the first necessity, I don't see why they wouldn't think, well, if you had the top three people who still fail it technically, I don't see why Kizaru just wouldn't come back in the conversation. It seems kind of ridiculous and retarded, given the fact that they could potentially they could potentially hire not hire, but like they could potentially make someone Fleet Admiral who wouldn't be as good as Kizaru if he theoretically was better in combinability. That's what I'm saying. Doesn't make
wait, what's the last thing?
Yeah, so I'm saying
kind of like
yeah. So I'm saying it wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't make logical sense, right? If all these people technically failed, right, and then they go to a different factor, and Kizaru is still not in the conversation despite all them failing, because then it's like whoever wins between Akainu and Aokiji for this compatibility thing, then that person will be in a he will be a Fleet Admiral, but that's still risking potential, and the potential is that potentially Kizaru could wait. The potential would be Kizaru could be stronger than both of these guys, and he would not get the title just because they judged them off the first thing, in which the other two guys also failed as well. I don't really see the logic in that, to be honest.
Okay, there's two separate ways of countering the argument. So you're presenting the idea that if the two of them haven't reached an impasse between who's the better one, then both of them have failed. But that's not true. Both of them have passed. The only person who's failed is Kizaru because he didn't meet the threshold. To make an analogy, if there's like an 100-meter race and 3 people pass and 3 people fail, well, the 3 people are going to do a part 2 to see who the winner of part 1 is. You wouldn't reintroduce the losers from part 1 because part 2 is only what you actually want is like part 1, but because part 1 is like there was an impasse, use part 2 as a symmetry breaker for part 1. But you wouldn't reintroduce them because the main thing we actually want is leadership. That's more important than the what do you call it?
Yeah, but you're still yeah, but but the problem is you're still tying back to leadership, which I agree. That was the most important thing they were looking at, leadership. But I'm saying when this most important factor is now out the window, then that's irrelevant. It doesn't matter at all.
But it's not out the window.
Now they're gonna
out the window is what was in question.
Wait, no, wait, it's not in question because look, if you have these two candidates, bro, the top 2 fucking candidates for leadership, They could not do it. That is now out the window because they're going to a different match to solve the solution.
It's not out the window.
Yes, because it's not like, bro. Because listen, that's so weird. The question, like, that's so okay. That doesn't make any sense because the two candidates competing for leadership, bro, in 50-50, right? Now, it hurts. Bro. By virtue of them actually like going to like the compatibility, it would be out the window. Technically, it will be out the window.
Why
like,
out the window? Out the window means it's no longer being considered. Out the window means it's no longer being considered. But we know it's still being considered.
Wait, no. What I mean by out the window is that they're not utilizing it no more. They're not using it no more. So I'm saying they can still have things. They can still have power behind it. Let me clarify. They can still have like some sort of consideration for like the leadership thing, but I'm saying it wouldn't, like, between Akainu and Aokiji, it wouldn't really work because they already agreed upon a solution. Not a solution, like they already agreed upon with their beliefs.
I know what you're gonna say. They already agreed the leadership.
So I'm saying it makes no sense. It's gonna make,
bro, you're taking like 5 minutes. I understand what you're gonna say.
I'm not done, bro. I'm not even done, bro.
Yeah, but I know what you're gonna say. Like, it's obvious.
No, you don't. You are not Luffy, bro.
All right. If you say the same thing I knew you're gonna say it, then I'm interested.
Yeah, you're a nigga. You're a nigga. You know us. So I'm saying, even given what you're saying, it's gonna make absolutely zero sense if we go with what you're saying, that Kizaru is not in the conversation, and these two people have come to a tie, and there is still talk about the situation. That is fucking ridiculous. That doesn't make any sense. What the hell?
Okay. So I tried to interrupt you because I knew you were gonna say the same thing. You said I'm not gonna say the same thing. And you
I did it though.
The same thing. And nigga, you did. How are you gonna tell me what I didn't think you were gonna say? It doesn't even make any sense.
All
right. So, maybe we'll just conclude on this point because you're saying the idea that if they reach who the better leader is, therefore it's thrown out. Well, to throw it out implies it doesn't have any impact on the leader of the admiral, which I don't think is true. They use a tiebreaker to figure out because the leadership wasn't something they could reach an agreement on. They use a tiebreaker to see who the winner of the two who won the first part is. So part one still has an impact. So that way, because Kizaru still isn't going to be considered. Sorry, because he failed part one. It's like if you use like a selection criteria, which funnels some people and keeps some people out, and that funnel still has people left. So they use a secondary funnel. There's no point in reintroducing the people who failed the first funnel because like the first funnel was also part of the selection process. It doesn't lose its selective power because you introduce secondary criteria.
Oh my god! I think after this we can just conclude. So I'll say this. Just respond to this thing.
Sure.
So I think I already provide a reasonable basis, but I can do it once again. So you were saying that you think it would still be in conversation, in which I'm saying if we presuppose your thing is correct, I could just make it look absurd. If it's absurd, we shouldn't build to it. Something that's going to be absurd is that. Yeah, something that's going to be absurd is that if every single other person is out the window for discussion besides Akainu and Aokiji being selected for the Fleet Admiral, if they didn't go 50-50 on that thing, the factor about leadership will be out the window because you already have the Gorosei and you already have Sengoku vote. So if they vote again, they're gonna vote the same fucking people. Obviously, that's out the fucking window. So now they switch to a different factor. The distinction in a different factor is that it's not like it has like a voting thing. It's like, well, it's just really dependent on the other guy's abilities, right? So it's like they fight and Akainu wins. So I'm saying by virtue of that, if we presuppose what you're saying is true, that's absurd. What I think is not absurd. What I think is actually reasonable is that if Kizaru fails to get in the first conversation, which is perfectly fine because he doesn't have the charisma, that's fine. But if you have these two other people who tie in charisma, so now they're going to have to put something different. I think it's actually logical for Kizaru to be in the conversation because then it opens up for a person who is better in a different specific aspect, which is fundamentally distinct, right? So if it is the case that Kizaru is a person, theoretically, if he's a person who is stronger than Akainu and Aokiji, and due to the whole thing about the first thing, he was not in the conversation, that leads to like, it's potential lost, right? It's going to be potential lost. So if it's potential lost, if it's greater potential that someone like Akainu can achieve, that's potential lost. Therefore, we shouldn't appeal to it. So that's my thing. I want to conclude now.
Okay, I'll be back in 5 minutes. Cool. I'll conclude I'll make a point, then I'll conclude afterwards. All right, be back in.
God damn! How they going back and forth on this shit, man? Bro, don't tell me this video is a fucking hour long. I will actually fucking crash out on this bitch, bro. Who I will actually crash out this like an hour long, bro. Oh, my fucking goodness, nigga. What the fuck? There is no way I lose this debate, bro, unironically. This debate was so fucking long, God. Damn. Long ass debate. So first,
I'll wrap this up. Okay. Just to summarize, your idea was that if they use a first metric and the first metric fails, they throw out the first metric and default to the second. Now the second is the only one that has any explanatory power because now they've changed their values. Right?
Sure.
You see how quick that was? What was that? 10-second summary of like a 3-minute point.
Just
and okay. So my rebuttal to that is that person they've stopped caring about the first criteria, and that the second criteria is the only thing now that holds any relevance, which I don't think is necessarily proved. The fact that only 2 of them fought seems to further indicate that they still choose the first one. The first one still has more power, hence why Kizaru isn't considered, and that these 2 are only fighting because it's contingent upon the first one. And I think this is true for any selection criteria. If you set up a first requisite for determining something, and then 5 people don't meet that metric, and only 5 people do meet that metric, well, the next funnel is only going to include the other 5 who did pass because you're funneling people out. And we know, as a matter of fact, the metric they prefer more so than fighting is the leadership. So the idea that they'll throw out leadership and change the metric for someone who's a better fighter, independent of the leadership ability, doesn't make any sense because we know they already value leadership more so than the fighting ability. And the fact that only the 2 of them fought as opposed to a 3-way on the Punk Hazard, again, further reinforces the idea that they didn't throw out the idea of leadership mastering.
Yeah, is that your conclusion?
I wasn't intending to conclude, but yeah, sure, I guess. What's your conclusion?
Yeah, so pretty much I explained why his position is absurd. I explained as to why mine is more reasonable, so therefore we should go with mine's. The thing is pretty much you have you know how like Akainu and Aokiji were fighting for Fleet Admiral. I was saying, well, I think Akainu is the strongest in terms of compatibility. He brought up the whole if situation about Aokiji. I said that
doesn't make sense. You think Akainu is the strongest?
Let me conclude, nigga. Damn.
You didn't make sense. I'm helping you, nigga. That sentence didn't make sense. Of course, you said he's the strongest because of his compatibility.
I don't, bro. Okay, sure, bro. Relax.
All right, bro.
Yeah. So he was saying that if it was the case that Aokiji was selected from like both parties about the charisma thing, then it would be based upon charisma, which is perfectly fine. But I'm saying since that thing didn't happen, since that thing doesn't have any actual correspondence to reality, that doesn't retake anything. And I'm saying what actually happened in One Piece was Aokiji and Akainu had a leadership type thing where 2 parties voted. It was 50-50. So they went on to a new condition, and the new condition was them fighting. And whoever won, that was pretty much the Fleet Admiral. So it's now changing this sort of narrative thing to fighting instead of like leadership, in which Rex was saying, well, consistently in the past, it was always about charisma, which is perfectly fine. So I'm saying if it was based upon the charisma of selecting a Fleet Admiral, now it's based upon strength, then it would directly put my character to be above the admirals. Now you're saying, well, why do you think people like Kizu and them would be in the picture? Well, I said, well, it's pretty much absurd to say that they wouldn't be in the picture because if you have, for example, let's say you have like 5 people and like the 2 people closest to being the Fleet Admiral that they're selected, and now they go to this first condition, which was consistently in the past used to come to some sort of conclusion on who should be the Fleet Admiral, and they didn't, and then they couldn't come to that conclusion. Now it would be the case that Kizu should logically not be exempt from this because he wasn't available for the first thing. Now for the second thing, if they presuppose that Akainu and Aokiji are still the best in that aspect, that would be fucking absurd because if Kizu is like stronger under closed doors, that can lead to potential what I say, bro? That could lead to potential loss within the Navy. So if you have a kind who's a fleet admiral, but in actuality Kizaru's a better fleet admiral, that leads to potential But what the fuck I say, bro? That leads to like some sort of like loss in like it leaves loss and potential for the Navy. So that's gonna be absurd. That shouldn't be something that's taken as righteous. Something that should be taken as like good in this conversation is that they should consider Kizaru to be in the conversation, because if it comes to a different aspect which is fundamentally distinct from the first aspect, Kizu could like excel more in the second one than the first one. So we have basis for as to why Kizu should be in the conversation. I already explained as to why the first thing in which Regulus is absurd, and that's why we should appeal to it. So Kizu is in the conversation. They still don't deem him to be in the conversation, even though they look at him in the second aspect. Aokiji and Akainu are still in the conversation. Aokiji and Akainu are still in the conversation. Akainu wins there for you stronger. That's my conclusion.
Did I conclude, or should I conclude now?
Did you not conclude?
I didn't know if I was making a separate container.
Bro, Future, you're a fucking retard. Get off my dick, bitch. I already explained to watch absurd. Please track. Be no else. You know your conclusion.
I thought I just gave my conclusion, but I'll just make a so I would say that the conclusion, but I'll just leave it at that. This is so long, I'm so tired. I'll give like a brief. I gave a part one conclusion. I just repeat the same point I made in my previous conclusion. So I don't think Cho fully addressed my point. I said that he's saying, well, they switched criteria, so leadership was no longer a thing they value. They only really value fighting prowess at this point. But I don't think that's true, because we know like leadership was more fundamental. The fact that initially, assuming there wasn't a synthesis, they would only use that metric. So leadership is clearly the thing first and foremost that they value in terms of being like the fleet admiral. And then secondly, if it was the case that now they've thrown out leadership as the criteria, and now they all are giving like equal consideration, what we should expect would be a three-way fight between Kizaru, Kainu, and Aokiji. They didn't do that. Shows still being contingent upon the first point, which is leadership. And then there's a bunch of other stuff. But I gave a conclusion like 5 minutes ago, and I just saw that stuff already. So yeah. All right, GG's. Wait, who's gonna send this to you?
Are we done? Are we done?
Yeah, we're done.